All right. Hey, Harlan family. Pastor Ethan here with Isaac. Here, we just got done with the service, and we're talking about Acts chapter 10, verses 9 through 23. Peter has a vision, and Peter is sent to go visit Cornelius. And so we're just here to talk about what we learned from this week and how we can walk it out. Isaac, do you have any thoughts that stuck out to you from this Sunday?
Really, what stuck out to me was just a lot of repetition when it comes to being uncomfortable. When it comes to understanding that you might get put in these uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable ties with people that you might not be familiar with, or you might be entirely familiar with them. And it's that concept of blind faith, for a matter of terms, of you have to know that God put you in these uncomfortable situations for a reason. And you might not know that reason until the very end. You might see that reason 2 seconds into an uncomfortable conversation, or 2 seconds into eating roasted cockroach.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. There was a book I read a long time ago called Translating the Message by Lamed Sana. And it talked about how the Bible was made. If you look at the old languages that were used to create the Bible, they have things called cluster words. And so a cluster word is a Hebrew word that can mean 12 different things. And to me, it makes sense that God would create His word on a foundation of a language that can mean so many different things. One word has 12 meanings, because then you can translate it to different cultures, to different people. And that was the kind of the thesis of this book, was that the Bible was made to be translated into all languages and tongues. And I think it's true based on that. And then we see in that what you're saying too is because of that, if the word was made to be translated, well, then this gospel was made to be translated to all languages, people. And how can they hear unless somebody speaks it, right? And so that's our job as the church. Speak the gospel, preach the gospel, maybe especially to people you don't like. What good does it credit you to love those that love you, right? Even the pagans do that. And so, anything else that stuck out to you?
I would say really the verse 15 within Acts chapter 10 was really, really huge. Just that voice that compels Peter to just kind of listen. And it's more of the second half of verse 15. What God has made clean, do not call common, or even some translations, do not call anything impure that God has made clean. That really was just kind of a powerful statement to me of like, you might view something in a light that makes something filthy, dirty, unhealthy to you, whereas in another culture or another people group, that might be a norm. So it's that leap of faith to go into that dirt, to go into the rubble and go, am I going to sink? Am I going to swim? Or am I going to let God take control and realize that I'm here to coast?
Amen. Well, and culturally, right, like eating tarantulas, right, like we saw in today's video, eating tarantulas, but we do see things in the New Testament, right, where if it's culturally acceptable to commit adultery, well then that's just the line. We don't do any of that stuff. But when it comes to the kingdom is not a matter of food or drink, as we read in Romans 14 today. There's a missionary to China, Hudson Taylor, and he was one of the first to pioneer where he went in and he started actually adopting the Chinese culture. Instead of trying to bring a European culture, he adopted to theirs. He's one of the first missionaries to do it, and had one of the most successful missionary journeys because he actually adopted to the people instead of making them adopt to him. And so I think there are times we got to go in and just be a part of it. Paul said, I become all things to all people that I might win some, right? And so we become all things to all people that we might win some to the gospel, and we might see him for eternity. Just some good thoughts.
There were a couple of things that I heard, kind of overheard within the congregation of, the common question of coming up of, are we a missionary to the culture, or are we a missionary for the culture? So it's kind of understanding that balance of, it's not necessarily one or the other, but there's very a heavy balance. With my experiences being a missionary in Honduras for as long as I was, there were times where the culture was, let's go to this person's house and drink our heads off after a night of working, whereas other of the cultures was, after we finished working, let's go to grandma's house and help her rebuild her kitchen. There were just dramatic leaps of, I'm thinking that this is a huge family culture, to all of a sudden now we're just partying and like doing drugs and all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, like the lines were completely just all over the place. And it's understanding that there's a balance to the nature of going into the mission field, understanding the mission field, and all of the sorts that kind of revolve around that.
And no matter where you're at, being in the world but not of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. Well, these are some good thoughts. And as we kind of go through this week, something to consider is keep your mind open to sharing the gospel, maybe especially with someone that is off-putting to you. And that you would say, there's no way they're going to receive the gospel. You don't know that. The gospel is the power to salvation for those who believe, right? And so the gospel holds a lot of power in just speaking it. So speak it out boldly. Don't be afraid. The Lord is with you. He'll give you what you need to say at the right time. And with that, we love you guys. Thanks so much for being here this Sunday and listening to this. Thanks, Isaac, for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.